This meeting is being recorded.
Mm. So this is a an impromptu kind of a raw, unedited kind of discussion. This is Anaiya, and I really am so honored to welcome both Anaiya Sophia and Pete Wilson. They're both experts in the field of sacred union, sacred sexuality, and they're just incredible people. Anaiya's written several books. Pete's had a lot of amazing adventures all over the world. He's been in the military. He's got a lot of amazing stories to tell too. And I'm just really excited to be talking to both of you about this subject. It's very dear to me.
Absolutely, likewise. And thank you for inviting us here.
Oh, honestly, my pleasure. So the thing that we were, and I know that this is a subject that you're passionate about as well. It's about the sanctity of the body and how, even in the subconscious, like there's been a lot more awareness recently that's been given to our sexual nature and things like that, but there's still like the subconscious stuff that wells up, and there's like a lot of vilification, still thinking of it as dirty and sinful and things like that. And this was sort of the reclamation of the sanctity of the body. That's what the sort of overarching premise was for this talk. So
yeah,
I would love to. Would you mind, like, if there's anything that's just going, yes, I want to talk about it right now.
Not that I know of.
I just listening to what you were saying there. There's also been quite a lot of confusion in the men's camp after Me Too, because that quite rightly has been a boundary clarification. This is a phenomenon worldwide. It's going to stop, and it feels like it's got the kind of knee-jerk reaction from men of not really knowing how to orientate with that. They can no longer be the men they've been brought up to be, and this quintessential sense of loss of identity in the masculine. It's difficult to be able to meet a partner when your role is insecure. Who am I really? How do I
definitions, right? Yeah. Sorry, you don't have boundaries or definitions that you like normal sort of parameters, I guess would be more appropriate. Like, to fall back on. No go-to kind of thing. It's all new territory. Wow. Yeah.
Which is really good in the long run, but what it means is men have got to stop looking to other people for a definition of who they may be as an individual man, and start turning inwards and finding out for themselves. The detective work there.
The Sherlock Holmes.
That's just a sort of spontaneous thought that hit me.
Yeah. And there is the sanctity of that too. Like, in a way, the Me Too movement was obviously, as you said, essential, but just the that clarity has to clear, and sort of the dust needs to settle. But there again, the vilification element comes into that too, because the second someone says something, it could be seen as a perpetration, and like there's misinterpretations and overreactions. And it's kind of like the pendulum has swung the opposite way now. It's like over response, or, well, I mean, it's not quite there. It went there for a while, now it's starting to come back. But yeah, it makes a lot of sense. And where do you go from there? Like, it's an inward journey that you have to define yourself as a person, as opposed to necessarily a gender, maybe, I don't know. But I mean, you are, like, you function in a certain way as a man in the union sense, but I guess we all have both masculine and feminine within us, the energies. So yeah, it's a very interesting time, and turbulent, but interesting.
Have a comment.
Yeah, just the actual, it actually leads to a really important question, one that kind of in some ways is a bit obvious, but like nobody's asking. Why do you actually make love? Why do you have sex?
Wow.
Literally, why do you? And getting honest answers out of men and women. Because for many men, the soul kind of, because it's fun, okay, yeah. And from women, a lot of the answers are to keep him, to not be alone,
emotionally,
to not feel awkward.
Thinking that somehow helps that cement that relationship.
It both ways keeps both both sexes locked in a set of roles that serves nobody.
Exactly. It's almost like a sport in a way. Like there's two teams playing, and like each one wants a certain thing, but they're not really in a truthful sense. Like they're not really communicating maybe between one another, and it becomes this sort of role play almost. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but kind of something Anaiya touched recently on. It kind of railroads both men and women. It's literally, why do we make love really? You know, what's it all about? And because it's been a certain way for so long, is that truthful? Is that really authentic for either of you? If not, big pause. What's happening? And something like I started saying, Anaiya has been this illustrating. You know, so many women have suppressed so many parts of themselves. Today was their own priestessness. Have been suppressing important parts of themselves for so long. It's like such a sad, almost lethal in some ways environment women are existing in. And us men are just kind of like, what happened there? Why does my partner say she doesn't feel met? It's because we haven't got a clue. You've not been saying, therefore we have no kind of direction. Again, because men are looking outwards for a sign of what's right. And that's our conditioning.
And there's no ground rules now. Like because again, is it procreation purposes? I mean, that's sort of the old traditional thing. You only have sex for procreation. I mean, no, I don't think that's, you know, I mean, if you had sex every single time you had a child or tried to have a child, that's, you know, that's a lot of work. I mean, for some people that's their path, but is there a sharing of the souls? Is there like, but what you're saying now is it's kind of like we're not having that meeting of the two souls. It's kind of like each one is kind of dancing around the other, looking at, well, okay, you're doing this and you might hurt me, you know, that kind of thing. Or if I do this, am I going to end the relationship and things like that? There's that, it's a strange dance we're in. It's very true what you're saying. I'm so glad you brought that up.
I do feel that the old paradigm or the old modality is absolutely dying, and a lot of couples are coming to this sort of gridlock. This gridlock, the desire for the old way is dying, the impulse is dying, and the two partners are just standing and looking at each other like across no man's land. And I am absolutely faithful that some new impetus is going to rise up. For me, it's happening in my dreams. It is definitely happening in an astral soul realm. And it has nothing to do with the old physical penetration, although I expect us humans will do that. This is definitely a new energetic. And it is sensational. It is incredible. It is rapturous. It's just as much fun. It's just as engaging. But it's an energetic. It's the ability to penetrate and receive one another energetically. And I feel like the machine is like ground to a halt. It's like, oh, this machine doesn't work anymore. Suddenly, zoop, and off we go again, and all the cogs and wheels start running. But it's going to be on a new frequency, a new plateau. And then we'll be able to say, well, this is the reason I make love. You know, and it'll be really grounded and authentic.
Because there's that spiritual connection that's so, like, because I mean the consciousness of the planet, it's no news to anybody that is rising and stuff. And I think it's like a reset. It kind of like in our collective unconscious. It feels like that. And the Me Too movement kind of struck a chord that just stopped things, and people started going, oh well, I can't do this. And some people try to hold on to what you were saying, like the old relationships, and it just isn't functioning anymore because we're at a different vibrational frequency.
But we must remember how revitalizing this act is for the body. You know, for the hormonal level, for the for the circulation, for the glandular system, for the brain, for the nervous system. This, you know, a good meeting in the sexual connection is such a healing agent for the physicality of the body. We must never forget that part. It's a full body participation that leaves both people, when it's been a very beautiful, pleasant act, you know, just like, yeah.
And to be able to experience that is a healing, huge healing, because it's, I mean, it's hard for people to surrender, male or female. It's hard because we're vulnerable, right? And I know you've both had a lot of wonderful, amazing, you know, relationships. I've seen the posts you've made. It's beautiful what you two do. And there've been times when you've been going through these alchemical changes and things too.
Yes,
and yet there is still that undercurrent of love that will, you know, carry you through. And that's for all of us. I've been single for 13 years now, and I, you know, but I can even on my level, whatever, you know, being, I can feel the same thing that you're talking about. And I've been having so many vivid dreams about things like this.
Yes. Yeah. You know, and another part of me wonders, in exactly the same way I wonder about our place on the earth as humans, our species. I often wonder, are we going to make it? But that's definitely not from a place of dread, definitely from a place of childlike wonder. And I also wonder, in exactly the same way, whether this new energetic, graceful way of totally unifying with another one will also come to us. If the two things are on pause and they each have this little question mark above them, and yet I can't help feeling they're totally connected. If we can find a way of living harmoniously with the rest of nature, then perhaps this way of communing will also be gifted to us.
It feels like what
I don't know, I just can't help feeling the two things are together. And something, maybe even our own collective soul, is like, are they going to stay or not, us humans? And if so, shall we give them the knowledge of transcendent sexuality?
God, yeah. Oh, I got like I got goosebumps all over my arms when you said transcendent sexuality. That's so like, I can feel it, like in my dreams, I can feel it in the back of my consciousness, how there's this, nature is speaking to us so much more powerfully than it ever has in my lifetime that I've ever noticed.
Absolutely.
And that whole, you know, the blood wolf moon and things like that about that's coming up with releasing things and stuff like that. And I really, it's very timely that it got postponed, this thing, because it's right, you know, on the heels of that.
Yes.
It just feels so like the coming energy, or the whatever, if I can say it that way. I don't know, you know, I'm not a prognosticator or whatever necessarily, but I can feel that there's going to be something with nature, and I can feel the energy of the earth and the energy of the sky coming into my dantian, or whatever, that sexual area. And there's something that's coming up that's unifying the two and changing, almost like with one of those like sacred orbs or something like that, clicking into place, that something new is forming and birthing into our reality. It feels exactly what you were talking about. Like when you started talking about that, I was like, yes. So Pete, you've been running some men's groups and things like that as well. Has there been anything that any of the men that you've been working with come up with around this kind of subject about the?
I mean, it's basically online, and the guys who are part of the circle are from all over the planet, which is interesting in that the men experience that they each have the same problems, irrespective of where they are.
Wow.
Which is, for men, that's the most important thing, because otherwise men walk around feeling that they're the only one this bad, or this bad a partner, or in this hell of a situation, or whatever it is. And they actually hear, well, no, actually every bloke's in it, or has been in it. And if he hasn't, well, here's a warning. I very much feel majority of men, the kind of men I'm looking for, are not spiritual men. They're guys who just need a lifeline. Because guys who are on a spiritual path, they've already got some kind of direction they're following. I'm after my ex-soldier colleagues and the average classic working class guy who talk about Britain. And their majority is still in a sort of state of complete lostness, of not knowing what's happened. They've probably been in a long-term relationship where the light's gone out and they're kind of just like, it almost feels like waiting to die.
Wow.
So, it's still the most important bit is building this commonality, because, witnessing each other and you see the heads going, nodding to the other guy's stories and recognizing what's going on.
And it's not just you, not just the one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Moving things on from, and it's difficult with the ladies too, I've noticed with other scenarios, but moving on to stop talking in the third person and in the collective, and what do you think and feel? Where are you? What do you feel about your relationship to your 30-year wife or whatever it is? No, but in a field where it's respected, honored, but also, would you like it to continue on this way? Wouldn't you like there to be something else? And that's kind of where everything is at the moment.
State of flux kind of thing. For a lot of people. It's fascinating that all over the world, they're all having the same experience.
Yeah.
It must be the collective unconscious. I mean, it must be. There's no other way around it.
It's the same old paradigm thing of men just don't talk about their feelings thing. They don't, because there isn't really the scenario in which they do that. The places where men classically gather are old school. They're bars or sports clubs or, that interest groups. And the last place most men would knowingly choose to go into is when they're likely to get exposed for not having all the answers, for not having a clue.
For not living up to the old paradigm of what they're supposed to be, right?
Yeah.
I'd like to speak a little bit to what Pete just spoke of, just to show you the contrast, because those wives, some of them are meeting me, and of course we're going into sacred body awakening, which is what you experienced. So these ladies are in a similar psychological condition, but then they take a big brave step and they come into sacred body awakening. And as you know, it's not so much theory, but mostly experiential. So within the hour of arriving, they are laying in somebody's arms, another woman's arms, and they're receiving that touch and that embrace and that care and the blessings, and the well wishes for the rest of her life. And that is staggering. That is stunning, because this very bleak and grey and lost and cold inside, internally cold woman is suddenly placed in this realm where I believe absolutely that transcendent sexuality is coming from. The first offering was, I call it sacred body awakening, but of course it's going to have so many names all over the planet. And the women are just drinking like camels at the oasis. And it's beautiful, it's beautiful, it's beautiful. And then it's tragic and sad. Because here they are in the embrace, experiencing what they are desperate to feel in themselves and with another person. So already the trust of another person is already getting healed. And then in comes the $1 million question. And this question gets asked in America, Canada, England, France, Australia. How do we share this with our men? And I'm still going, And this is the moment where we are in, myself and Pete and the men and the women that surround us. What is this in Sacred Body Awakening that we've discovered together as women?
Yeah.
how do we bring this to the man? Because so far the men are kind of like, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So it seems to be absolutely deliciously lapped up by the women folk.
Yes.
And kind of like, yeah, it's okay, it's not too bad, by the men. So what we're doing is we're looking to find that same astonishing way of holding and being with the men folk in a way that's meaningful to them. They don't want to be stroked with oil. They don't want to be anointed. They need something else. And what we're trying to do is hone in on what it is that beloved man is desperate to receive.
How the vehicle through which he receives it fully, as opposed to sort of like, okay, well, it's kind of nice, but I'm not fully open to it, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fascinating.
But it makes me sad because I see what happens to the women.
Yes.
And I see, or I hear what is appropriate for me to hear from Pete, his feedback with the men.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm like, we got to bring this to the men. But we're not sure how yet.
I wonder, because maybe men are supposed to be like yang energy, like they've so identified with that being the penetration force, the force that moves forward and things like that. They're not allowed to, I mean, on some level, to receive. Maybe that whole cutting off for the divine feminine within themselves as well. And that might be, I'm not suggesting that I know anything more than anybody else, but there might be something in that, like that it's okay to be vulnerable, to have the receiving of something, as opposed to having to always give and be the provider. And because that's such an archetype for the man, right? You're the father, you're the provider, you're the protector, and all of these things, and you're the one who gives, and you receive to a certain degree what is due to you, but you don't really receive. Like that, like we've been taught, because we're the receivers, we're the recipients of the lovemaking and all the things. Yes. Our bodies are the temples in that regard, and we're used to this. Yes. And the men don't have that familiarity with that because it's been so shut off for so many, I don't know, centuries, millennia, whatever it is. Yeah. I mean, you're such a beautiful soul, Pete. I mean, and I can see how this could totally, I can see when, like, it'll be like, sparks flying and starting to, like, not in a tacky way, but in a spiritually beautiful way, how it's going to enter into, in a way, and allow your, because there's a fear also for men, of being penetrated as well, right? To being permeated as opposed to penetrated, maybe. I don't know, but I'm just throwing that out there. This is what my heart's saying.
I just want to say one thing. So for the man receiving, you got to remember there's two beloved hearts that want to give to him. So it's not receiving from one, but learning to receive from two. This is outrageous for the masculine. This is double.
Okay.
So you've got to bear that in mind as well.
Yeah.
For me, there's the component missing. Mm-hmm. If the man isn't in touch with his feminine side, there is no way he's going to let someone else give him anything. Mm. So I believe one of Anaiya's other really important creations, which I think you experience as well, is in a marriage.
Oh, sacred union.
Yeah.
No. Before that can happen, in a marriage.
Within yourself. Yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
Where he, in his own space, in a mixed circle, or whatever the constellation, doesn't matter, because he's giving to himself. He's recognizing, if properly led, that he already has these characteristics.
Yes.
And he's already using them. He's just not aware that that's what they are. Brilliant. And so in various forms of in a marriage, then he starts to build on the relationship to himself instead of looking to her to fix. He's likely to be more grounded in that way, and then able to instead of being another child, he can be a more worthy partner, where all the great skills of both sides, masculine and feminine, he can bring to play by choice.
Yes.
So then when a guy's done that a while, then it's time to start playing with things like, is there a sacred body awakening version for men?
Yes.
So that groundwork has to happen first, I feel. And that is something that the wife or girlfriend can lead him through, or use a video where they both do it. So it's not her giving to him, they're both doing it together. You know, this sort of empire building thing. It's down to the skills of the wife to know what tools work on him. Will he accept her showing him something, or does he need somebody else to be the image of that?
Because it may be wounding or whatever other relationship, some sort of a block that may not allow him to receive, or in some way, or like, who knows, whatever. But yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That sounds so beautiful. Oh my God, you guys are, I love the work you do. It's just so,
Or
no,
you know, I don't know how many times
I'm not trying to in any way diminish your work. It's been like fill in the blank with whatever swear word you want. Awesome. But your work is also really powerful, Pete. I mean, you're a little bit more on the not so like, blah, I'm here side, but you have a quieter but very grounded and gentle and masculine in a very balanced way kind of energy to you. And I've never even met you in person, but I can feel it from you. It just emanates from you.
I think that's perhaps what makes us a little bit different, in that we're not trying to be teachers, we're not trying to be satsang givers. We're kind of trying to show, not even trying to show, we're just being ourselves and bringing out what's happening between us, knowing that that is what's happening to other couples.
Yeah.
And so the men in that also get to get the same kind of support. But what I find, you know, there are many men that will connect to Anaiya because of her way of being, and some women will connect with me because of my way of being. There's no one way, but with this combination, that we're likely to be able to give the feeling that, hey, it's not so far away. They don't look any different to us.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah.
I think what I love about Pete is, to me, he represents that really real and rugged and gritty man. So, you know, I show him my ways, and I introduce the sacred body and the sacred union. And at first it's like, what is this shit? Literally. Because he's ex-military, for God's sake.
Yeah.
He's lived a very overtly masculine life. Yeah. And suddenly I'm pulling out all sorts of weird and wonderful things from the deepest cosmos.
You don't know how.
But you know what? Every time he may scoff, it's only a matter of time before he sincerely actually gives it a go. And even if nothing happens on the first, second, or third time, he will still be open to try again and try again. So when I look at Pete, I don't just see one man. I see thousands of men. I see millions of men behind him. And I know in my humble heart that that is in fact actually true. He is opening the door to thousands of what we would call, regular guys, beautiful regular guys, not the spiritual ones, not the ones with a gift, but the ones who do fight the wars, the policemen, the firemen, the ambulancemen, the bus drivers. This is what I feel Pete's work is, to be that bridge. How do I bridge this beautiful healing I'm receiving in this spiritual community to the regular guys?
Almost like an emissary of sorts, like an ambassador.
Yeah.
I mean, hopefully. I mean, maybe I'm more verbal than most guys, or able to articulate certain things which are difficult to. But the main thing is that I'm actually no different to any other guy out there. I can just put words to many of the things that are going on in there. That's important.
And you're dedicated and you care and you love enough that you
kind of,
that out there.
I wish I could agree with you.
No?
I'm not dedicated to it. It's like, this is how it is. This is what I've got to do. It's not like, oh, what can I do to make money, or what can I do to balance Anaiya's work, which is where I have come from, and it's fallen flat on its face. No, it's just whenever the opportunity arises, just simply be honest. There's nothing else to remember then. There's no storyline or punchline. It's just be authentic, whatever that means.
So we were talking about the idea of the body.
Can you see the t-shirt?
Pardon me?
Oh, it's back to front.
Oh,
no.
Man
I
at
love
heart.
that.
Man at heart.
That's adorable. I thought you had to go to the washer or something. My apologies. That's adorable. I love your shirt.
This is a very classic British, men at work sign.
Yep.
What we've done is we've turned it into a love heart.
It's adorable.
That's the name of the men's thing.
That's Pete's man's group.
It's so perfect. It's an image that people could relate to, and it's perfect.
Nice.
Yeah.
I was just going to say about when I was in school, I studied for years and years and years in life drawing, and there was a lot of nudes, men and women, and how people on the stage and things like that, they didn't mind. They would just be comfortable with their bodies and things like that. But then there's people would say, oh, it's dirty, and like, oh, it's like pornography. I'm like, art, pornography, like what? How does? But nudes, and people are like, ew, stuff like that, and they still occasionally do. I don't. That's one thing I don't understand from my perspective, but I know that a lot of vilifications happen and things like that about our bodies and about especially the sexual organs, because it's like, I mean, how many statues have a leaf strategically placed, or something like that?
Yeah.
Do you have anything that you would want to maybe mention about I don't know, some experiences maybe in courses you've taught, or things that like people that you've talked to about that kind of stuff, that people that we kind of acknowledge certain things, but then it's still kind of blah blah blah. It's like, this is icky, or this is still I don't like that part of myself, or I don't know. Is there?
Well, definitely everyone has like a spoken opinion on nudity. They've already got their opinions, they've already got their ideas, they've definitely got an idea about themselves and about how they're going to appear in nudity. And that's just like, I listen and I'm like, yeah, okay, whatever, blah, blah. But then comes the truth. When you actually disrobe together, when you're actually nude and naked, now you're in the truth of the experience. It's never sexual. And it always puts man and woman back into a connection of A, tribe, B, close community, C, innocence. So it's like, yeah, people can say what they like, but even those who are like, rawr, it's really dirty and wrong.
Yeah.
With a bunch of naked people, let them be naked themselves, and they will not be saying that anymore. They will not be saying that anymore, because the experience of being naked with others in an innocent environment is stronger than any thought form or opinion or conditioning that's been passed on through the generations. Because it's so natural, it's so organic, it's like a tidal wave. It overrides the ridiculousness of the small mind, and it's just an ecstatic and beautiful freedom. So yeah,
thank you.
but you can't convince them, you can't tell them that, and they go, oh yeah, actually I believe you now.
Well, my intellect is agreeing with you now. Yeah, it's more of an experiential thing, as you said, though. But this is
the experience. Yeah.
I remember in your Sacred Body Awakening, there was that component of it, and at first people, you could feel people were there, stuff like that. But after it happened, I don't know, not even that long, we were laughing, talking, completely forgot about it. And because it was that innocent vessel, that innocent container in your sanctity, right? That you provide that safe space, And when we can realize the ridiculousness of all of that chatter, it's true, like it all just sloughs off. I've never been the same since. I mean, I already came at it with my arts background and stuff like that, but when it came down to actually disrobing myself, I was a little bit more,
Oh, same here. I am not one to get my clothes off first. No. And that's why I say it with so much passion, because that has been my experience. I will never offer to be obviously when I'm holding the sacred body, I have to go first. But if I was with my companions, I would not offer to go first. No. I'd be definitely towards the end.
Yeah.
But once you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we have so, like, in our ancestry, have so many experiences of being in sacred spaces, priestesses, priests, and things like that. But we've so, like, I don't know, it's funny how there was that whole religious squashing of the body, of nature, and like subjugation of it. It's so strange. But now it's like it's been pushed down, and now it's like the isostatic rebound or whatever. So boom, back up again. We're actually coming back into the truth of who we are.
Yeah. You got to remember, in the amygdala, that gland out the back of the head, in the old cortex, the old lizard part of the brain, the amygdala is responsible for two very powerful feelings. Heightened is sexual states, and heightened spiritual states. So, when the religions try to separate sexuality from spirituality, they are, seriously impairing the functionality of that amygdala. You can't separate these two energies. But of course, for hundreds of years, maybe even thousands, it seemed that they had successfully separated these two states. But you just have to look around to see the aftermath of that, with pedophilia and cruel nuns beating children, to see that did not work. That so did not work. We unleashed monsters by doing that. Because, in the amygdala, these two energies have to flow beautifully and seamlessly. And hence, you do see pictures of the high priestess being bare-breasted. But that's not to invoke some sort of pornographic, sleazy, ooh, she's got her tits out type stuff. But just to show the raw sexuality. And it's not to show because the priestess is not thinking in that way. It's like, do not clothe me when I am doing my ritual. Because it's raw, it's wild, and it has to be that way. And that is how you get the energy going. But it's not what we probably think it is. Mm-hmm. It's raw, untamable animal nature, vertically ascending towards, let's just call it, the Most High.
Mm-hmm. When you think about it, I mean, the people have referred to the body as the temple, right? Or as like a sacred object. Would you ever, cover over a sacred relic or to hide it? Why? It lies in the face of reason.
Yeah,
that absolutely. Is what she's embodying, sacredness, when she is doing that ritual or whatever it is, and she's just in form, sacredness in form.
Yeah. I think I'm right when I say something like those little fig leaves over the Michelangelo statues, weren't they secondary? Weren't they originally sculpted as nudes?
I think.
And then maybe one of the popes come along and said, you got to put fig leaves all over your work.
Yeah. Because, David, like every single vein, everything on his body is just magnificent. And then this stupid leaf. It's almost like a cod piece, It's like, what?
Yeah.
And it's funny that in the period of time, like Albert Dürer, he had the fall of Adam and Eve, and there's a stupid branch covering their, genitalia and their sexual organs. It's like, oh, it's just so childish.
Yeah.
I'm thank you so much for joining me on this thing. I don't know. It's such a fascinating subject. I could go on and on and on about it, but I jotted down a couple of ideas of things that I might mention, because I love hearing what you have to say. Well, why would sexual organs be any different than your hand or your nose? I mean, when you think about it,
Yeah.
it's part of you. It's just like, why is it dirty? Why is it gross?
Yes. Yeah. I think what the church was trying to do was maybe not so much the body as dirty, but the desires.
Oh,
I mean,
okay.
basically, the men were troubled by the desires. They couldn't focus on their prayer and on their pure way of living, their lifestyle. And so I guess the church forefathers at the time tried to crush those desires, those natural desires, and made everybody feel terribly shameful and guilty for having the desires. And then it got projected out onto the body, onto women, onto sexuality, onto pregnancy. Yeah, it's just a mess.
Being in the family way, can't even say pregnant and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Back in the 50s and stuff. It's just like, really?
Yeah. Terrible, a very terrible and a very cruel thing to do.
Yeah, something.
Yeah.
But a lot of that came in with the writings of Saint Augustine, which was where the idea of original sin came from. And as soon as whichever pope it was that dreamt that one up and put it into church doctrine, he immediately made everything about the physicality of humanity as wrong, as born into original sin, and the only way you can come out of that is at death or through the intercession having been paid for through a priest or whatever. So, good business.
Yes, exactly.
But it's kind of what I'm thinking. It doesn't matter whether it should or shouldn't be that way. It actually is that way for most people. What can educators do about that? Where, this is the reality that many people of our generation are consciously or unconsciously living with. Body shame and body issues. And I've got to say, as Anaiya heard recently, men have as many body issues as women, which is that's kind of downplayed quite a lot.
And of course, because you're not supposed to feel and things like that. You're supposed to be this big, rugged, tough guy who's like, I'm going to just take care of everything for you, honey, and stuff. Like, I don't feel anything. I'm good. I'm fine. Like, it inside, like, it's almost like this layer of like falsehood trying to hide the true person inside. I mean, like, everyone has feelings. To try and emasculate someone's feelings, it's just like crazy. But I know even my son is starting to get into that stage where he's like hiding his, and he's like, no, you don't touch, this thing. And I mean, I understand it's healthy to have boundaries, but to the point where it's like almost phobic, Yeah,
but also with sons especially, you can only take the conversation with him. Hey, what's happening here? What's happening with nakedness and all that? And you can only bring out, this is how he feels and this is how you feel. But you can't force him in any way to think the way that you do, because he's living in an environment other than you.
Of course. No, I'm just
reflecting honoring that hidingness, but encouraging another way of thinking. Right. Because there's this constant theme with young men and all men of all ages, from way back, of being wrong all the time, no matter what you do. You hear it in guys speaking about how they feel spoken about from their partners. I'm always wrong. I'm always doing something wrong. This whole attitude. So with the young guys who are coming into puberty and stuff like that, it's honoring where they are, not making them wrong, but just giving them opposite or other sets of ways of seeing the same thing. Perspective.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
I was thinking the only place I've ever seen where there's a scenario where men are naked together in a very powerful situation is sweat lodges.
Oh yeah.
I've got quite a lot in my past, naked sweat lodges. And because of the nature of it, out in nature, you're automatically on the back foot and it's cold and all that, whatever else is going on. And then having to get on hands and knees and going in naked to the lodge. And all of the rounds, the things that happen to different guys. It's a great leveling You know, some guys are bigger than others to be, you know, but when everyone comes out, no one is anyway thinking about that. It's more, we survived this together, all covered in all kinds of crap and ash and soil and sweat and snot and whatever. And it's like, you know, brotherhood then is actually rebuilt, like I was saying, from a complete nakedness, nowhere or no thing to hide behind, to it, oh wow, there's a grounding purpose. More sweat lodges, maybe.
Yeah, because they're very powerful. I've participated in a few. The ones I went to were both co-ed, but even that was when you go in there, you're kind of nervous, kind of shifty. It's like you're close to other people and things like it's all dark and it's steamy and stuff. But after you've done all the sharing, it's like suddenly it's just lifted up to the sky, and then when you leave, you're all family. That's what it felt like to me. I love it's a powerful experience.
There you go again, hearing the other guy's prayers or invocations or gratitude or sorrow over, you know, oh, that sounds familiar. There's lots of guys, you hear guys crying in the darkness, you know, big leveler, more of that.
It's almost womb-like, and it's like it's a safe place because we're not staring at you. Oh my God, that man is crying. You know what I mean? It's like it's just a natural release for everybody's allowed to, whatever that has to come out comes out and it stays there. You know, kind of thing. Just release. Yeah. Sacred space. I love you guys. There was one more thing that I had just as a little note. If you don't mind, I'll just mention this one more thing. And we've talked, I mean, you talk about this in your book, I believe, that our bodies, especially in sacred union, are the gateways through which souls incarnate. And it's that act. And in a way, how could anyone think of it as something, you know, that when it's exchanged with love, that it couldn't be anything other than sacred? I mean, something that to bring a life, a soul into an incarnate form. I mean, it's a gateway. And it's both men and women. The one thing that's kind of funny in a way is that the way that we view fathers and mothers and how children are, I don't know, because the father doesn't carry the child within his body, and it's like, it's my child and whatnot, but it's like, somehow people always think of the mother as being more the parent, if that makes any sense. I'm not trying to sound like I think that necessarily, but it's just what I've observed. Again, court cases when there's divorce and things like that, it's the mother that usually gets the child and things like that. But there's this huge energy exchange between the two people that has created this sacred space and this sacred being that, you know, both need to be honored so much more than they are.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry, I kind of, I didn't really, like, if we see, and it's sort of like, because the woman's body is the vessel of all of that stuff, but it's half of the genetic code of the man and half the genetic code of the woman that incarnate into this beautiful being. And it used to be kind of seen as, oh, hey, you got one, you know, like for the guy, you got her pregnant, you knocked her up and things like that. And it was kind of like, but it almost doesn't honor the beauty and the sacredness of how the masculine energy comes into it. Do you know what I mean? Do you know what I'm getting at?
About that today, how there's this automatic assumption that the child will go with the mother, and that you know the father almost has to just let go. It's law because it's because you simply have to. And that, to me, again, in the new paradigm, you know, once we've figured out our real harmonious balance point on this earth, things like that will not be happening. It will not be happening. There is no assumption the child goes with the mother. There will be some kind of continuation where the father is close, connecting with the child during the formative years, still playing that father and parental role in a way that is harmonious. This word harmonious. At the moment we might think, oh, well, that is impossible. No, it's not. It has to become possible. This is the only way our species is ever going to be noble and elegant. This crass way we've been doing things, this is our downfall.
even in relationships, it's competition versus collaboration. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It's been like warring for like competition in business, competition in relationships.
Yes.
It's crazy. It's
Struggles.
work.
Yeah. Power struggles.
Yes.
In relationship, you're powering against each other, and yet you've come together because you felt the attraction of love and desire.
Mm-hmm.
And now you're trying to outmaneuver each other?
Yeah, it's nuts, man.
Yeah. Very strange. We are a strange bunch.
We are a bunch of strange eggs, definitely.
But I think everyone can agree now, we are so obviously going through a huge cleanup and purification process. Like, the whole race, every culture, every tradition, every continent. And it's these jagged little pieces that should hopefully get smoothed out.
Mm-hmm. And sometimes there has to be a discomfort in order for something to change, unfortunately.
Yeah.
I would say that most men need their asses kicking to actually get onto and get into something that's of meaning rather than fence-sitting. Mm-hmm. It's only when something traumatic happens to most men that they actually start to look for other answers, be it divorce or an illness of some kind, or a death in the family or whatever. So, yeah, interesting stuff.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
But I'd like it. It sounds like that this kind of jockeying position and sort of ego-based sort of conflict and antagonism doesn't happen to us. It does. Mm-hmm. It has happened a lot between us. Yeah. There is no difference between us and anyone else there. But slowly, a field has come which we've both added to and taken parts of ourselves and each other away from, where there's the willingness to stop defending a position and listen to what the other's actually coming with. But for it, again, honestly, I don't think men, for example, can do that until they're able to embrace their own feminine, because it's her that will recognize that there's something in what she's saying. It's the masculine that's defending against a perceived threat, which it's not. Mm-hmm. And just enough to give that breath. Hang on, yeah, I can recognize what you said there. Where's that come from? Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, back in my childhood. Then the journey started. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I don't want to leave this conversation with like, oh, the masculine has to.
No.
Us ladies also have a piece in this present day. Us ladies have been, we've been entrepreneurs and business leaders and authors and, we have stepped out into our power, and it's fabulous and it's wonderful. But to come into union, it's not a stepping out of power, but it's learning to respect and value the other as much as we have authentically started to respect and value ourselves. So the feminine has come from this secondary position, and it's opened, and we have power and money and creativity. But if you want to go into union, if you want to take that into the world of relationship, then that power and prestige and all the great, wonderful things that you authentically feel about yourself now has to open. You've got to open a side door, not a back door or a front door, a side door, and consider the partner in that same level of importance and respect and honor.
Absolutely. Because it's almost like that again, the competition. I'm over you. No, I'm over you.
Yeah. Side doors. Open your side door.
I love when you put that, because it's not like if it's front, it's almost like confrontational. If it's back, it's almost subversive. But like a side is like equal. It makes a lot of sense. It's a really good analogy.
Yeah. Yeah. So both male and female have shifts to make.
Yeah, I mean, I know I come across as sounding very anti-masculine, or like men need to get their finger out, which is true. But actually, we're mostly speaking to women, sadly. I'd love to be in a position where more men are showing up for the conversation, because men really do have the potential. They really do. But we're in a time of a breaking down of the old facades. Nothing of the old world, the old paradigms hold any water any longer. There's only us that's desperately trying to keep it together. And you know, I absolutely, with Anaiya, want to create this field of, hey, just take a step away from that old role, breathe and try something new. You know, just feel into this. Don't think about it. Feel into this. Yeah.
That's very powerful. Like it's
just. And I think it's really difficult not to get locked into this idea of men as being this and women being that. I think it's more healthy for us all to understand we are each a unique fingerprint or a unique cocktail of both masculine and feminine, which we would be wise to learn how they interact or how they play us when we're unconscious, and learn our partners' strategies and characteristics and positive sides, and then learn to dance together.
Beautiful.
Because, you know, ridiculous things. I've spent a lot of time in Sweden. There, it's quite normal for young men to be pushing prams with 4 other guys meeting up at the coffee shop. It's just normal. It's like it's the best person for the job at that moment, or the one who can arrange the time off, or whatever it is. You know, it's not given that it should be the wife who slaves in the kitchen if the guy actually enjoys making food. Or whatever, you know, get rid of the old roles, because they don't apply necessarily. Or do stuff together. Actually go shopping together. No, that's what winds a lot of men up. But you know, that's the best result. Or if you don't, you can't complain about what's laid on the table.
That's true, because you participated in buying it. That's true. Yeah.
And you know, men are interested. Involve them in the right way, and they'll rise to it.
Interesting use of words, but sorry. Sorry, there was something I was going to say, and just completely went out of my mind. Because you were saying masculine and feminine, like just because we have a gendered body doesn't mean that we are specifically that polarity. It's like we exist on a spectrum, and some women are more masculine, some men are more feminine, some are in the middle. You know, and some men are very masculine, some women are very feminine. You know, it's a spectrum, and getting to know your partner's workings and things like that, and having that dance like you were talking about, that's one of the most powerful things you can do in a relationship, I think, to have that ease of allowing as opposed to enforcing or pushing or whatever.
Or the language you're putting up with.
Oh God, yeah.
Our parents' generation,
yes,
that's still the language they're using. It's like, well, just do as she says, you know. That's not good enough.
Or he's a man, you have to understand, or something like that, like, or she, you know, all women are like this, or like, you know, all women love soap operas, or all men love sports, or whatever. It's just like, you can't pigeonhole a person based on their anatomy. You just can't. Well, I don't know what else I can add to this or whatever, because it's been such a wonderful, amazing conversation. I've learned so much from both of you with this, and I'm so grateful for both of you taking the time to talk about this. I'm going to be posting this on YouTube as soon as it uploads. I'm not going to even edit it. I'm just going to be there. I'll send you the link to it.
Thank you.
And I want to thank everybody, this is obviously in the future, but I want to thank everybody men and women who have taken the time to listen to this, because this conversation is so vitally important for us collectively as a species. And thank you so much, both of you, for sharing your wisdom and your love and your experiences with me and with the people who are going to be watching this. I am so blessed that I know you both, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Anaiya. Yeah, great idea to create this conversation. Good one.
I just felt like my heart was just, I have to do this. And you're the perfect people to talk. I so loved your courses. Every time I took a course with you, I shifted hugely. And I have nothing but good things to say about you and your work.
Likewise.
And it was so nice to actually talk with you, Pete. I love your poetry. You're a very talented gentleman in many ways. Okay. Thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording now. Is there anything else anybody would like to add? No?
Yeah, just get hold of one of Anaiya's vids on inner marriage. It's actually that important.
Mm-hmm. Very, very, very life-changing, powerful, and essential work, like medicine.
I would say without that, you can't go anywhere. Without an inner marriage, you cannot progress anywhere for your own health or for anybody else's. You know, including your children.
It's like when they say that if you can't really love someone if you don't love yourself, and in this way,
why should they love you more? Simple.
Yeah.
If you can't love yourself, why should someone else?
And you can't really meet a person that way. Like, if you really want to be met by someone, you have to know who you are, and you have to be able to. I'm not trying to slam people over the head with it, but you have to. There has to be someone in you to be met, someone of balance. Not perfection, but balance to whatever degree to be met.
Yeah. And you know, the ongoing question, who is that? And it's for as long as you breathe, it would be wise to be asking yourself, who is that? Who am I? Who is that in me that recognizes the wisdom in the words of someone else? Who is that? Spend more time with that one.
I'm just going to sit with that for a minute. Thank you. I love you guys. Thank you, Pete. Thank you, Anaiya, so much. It's been such a pleasure. I have no idea how long this recording has been, but I've enjoyed every minute of it. So namaste to both of you, and I look forward to another one sometime in the not too distant future.
Yeah, absolutely. Namaste.
To both of you. Okay, stop.